Mathematics, Applications and Interpretation, Paper 1, Time Zone 1, HL, May 2025. This is question number 5. Carries 9 marks. It talks about a person, Tiki. She's sailing a boat in the ocean. She starts from A, and the plan is to reach B. She starts from A and goes to B, and then she plans to take a turn and at a bearing of 100 degrees and travel 13 kilometers to reach a point C. Now, that was the initial plan. However, due to navigational error, Tiki arrives at point D instead of point B, and point D is 2 kilometers due point B. What he wants is to find the distance from point D to point C, and the bearing Tiki must use to travel directly from D to C. So what's the bearing that the person needs to travel from D to C, and how long? Due to the navigational error in the second part of the trip, Tiki arrives at point E instead of point C. So again, instead of going to C, the person seems to arrive at E, and which is 2 kilometers due west of point C. So again, this is 2 kilometers that's been told to me. Well, write down the distance between D and E, justify your answer. So let's look at the first part of the question. I hope you know what is the meaning of a bearing. A bearing is always calculated with respect to the north. So if this is my north, and this is the point where I am at, and then I move, let's say, in this direction, then the bearing is always calculated with respect to the north in this fashion. And even if I'm moving this way, the bearing is going to be complete reflex angle. Okay. Tiki has moved from A to D, and what I'm looking for is this length, which is from D to C. All right. So because the person has moved due from B, this angle is going to be a 90 degree. And that would tell me that this complete angle is going to be 360 minus 100, which is 260. And again, I'm reducing 90 from there, and that's going to give me a 170 degree. So I've redrawn this diagram, and this is how it looks. So for us to find DC, we can use the cosine rule. And what do I know about the cosine rule? We know that DC square is going to be equal to DB square plus BC square minus 2 times of DB into BC into cos of 170 degree. And that gives me the value for DC as 15 kilometers. Let's look at the next part of the question. I now need to find out the bearing Tiki must use to travel directly from D to C, which means I'm looking for this particular angle, and this is to be the north. I already know that this is going to be a 90 degree, so if I can find out this small angle here, I should be able to get the bearing. So for that, I'm looking at this angle to be calculated. I'm going to be using the sine rule here. And therefore I get the value for D, or angle D, as 866 degrees. And that would tell me that the bearing that Tiki needs to travel will be 90 plus 8 point, which can be written as 98.7 degrees. All right, so in the next part, due to the navigational error in the second part of the trip, now I'm going to erase all of this. So Tiki has arrived at point E instead of point C. So the person travels from D and ends up at E instead of going to C. So I know that this point E is 2 kilometers due east, and this is the north, because both are traveling east. This angle is 90 and so is this angle 90. That tells me that DB and EC are parallel to each other and also equal to it, right? And if I consider the quadrilateral DBCE, one pair of opposite sides are equal and parallel, and therefore DBCE would become a parallelogram. And that would tell me that the distance DE is simply 13. And that's the end of the solution. Thank you. Goodbye.